Sonic Origins is the latest result of Sega's long-documented love for mismanaging their most famous and beloved franchise. This is a product that had the right recipe and all the right ingredients, but didn't get enough time in the oven. Do you remember what I said about the last Sonic game? As the only game to be released for Sonic's 30th anniversary, this is beyond embarrassing, and Sega should be doing everything they can to prevent this from happening again. This weird idea that Sonic games aren't rushed anymore is delusional, because as I've said before, every Sonic game is rushed. There are always cut corners, missing features, and tight deadlines for every release. This is nothing new. Yeah. Not even a widescreen remaster of my favorite video game ever made is safe from Sega's lack of polish. Sonic Origins is running fully remastered ports of the classic Sonic games. These are not emulated. Unfortunately, this is the case for, quote, classic mode as well. You're just playing a 4x3 version of the remastered games, but without the added drop dash. For some reason, this removes Knuckles from Sonic 2, even though he was playable via lock-on technology on the original hardware. You'll also still need to watch the new animated cutscenes, which still play during other characters' campaigns, like when you beat Sonic 3 as Knuckles, even though his campaign takes place after this cutscene. Regardless of game modes, Origins has a noticeable amount of input delay and occasional stuttering, likely due to the implementation of the infamous DRM de novo for the PC build of the game. You don't need me to explain why anti-piracy software makes games run worse, gets cracked within days or weeks of launch anyway, and therefore only hurts legitimate customers. Hopefully, the game can be patched, like Mania, to remove this pointless inclusion. Every game in Origins has a gross, subtle blur across the screen, removing the sharpness of the original image with no option to turn it off. This, combined with the input lag, made us bring out the original cartridges for comparison on the night that the game launched. It was my last night at the home of Mr. Productions, and I can't deny how morbidly entertaining it was to all freak out over how many problems we encountered. Sadly, the world record Steve got me in Emerald Hill Act 1 has since been beaten. On a positive note, my powers of observation have been validated, as I always thought Sonic CD 2011 looked stretched out, but I never actually checked for sure. It's clear to see that the Origins version is a big improvement. Anniversary mode of each game has added the drop dash, but it doesn't feel as good as it did in Mania. This is partially due to the roll lock being active after drop dashing, a control hindrance in the classics where your midair influence is locked after rolling, which feels very stiff and unnatural. Mania didn't have this, it shouldn't be here in Origins if you're going to include the drop dash. If you look real close, you'll notice that the drop dash in 1, 2, and CD is just a regular spin dash that activates for a single frame, whereas 3 and Knuckles got the real deal. You can't drop dash side to side, back and forth in Sonic 1 and 2 because of the roll lock, you just keep going in the same direction, but you can in CD and 3, which absolutely destroys the time travel system if you know how to use it. There are a lot of aesthetic and functional changes here compared to previous releases, mostly in the new build of Sonic 3, and some are actually quite good. Not that fucking autosave icon in the corner appearing all the time, oh my god, that is so annoying. Sonic CD's cutscenes have their original aspect ratio and vocal tracks restored, but the ending is drastically sped up, missing its sound effects, and the music begins too early. While we restored the vocals for the songs, we lost the in-game voice clips for Sonic and Amy, because of course we did. Sonic 1 and 2 are both using their original Mega Drive soundtrack and not the remastered version for their mobile ports in 2013. This is a strange omission, however it does mean that speed shoes dynamically speed up the music, instead of stopping the current track and playing the sped up version from the beginning. That always bothered me. And of course, the soundtrack to Sonic 3 has been butchered, and I'm not just talking about the Michael Jackson tracks. We wondered pre-release if the ludicrously high price point for Origins and its asinine DLC bonuses were a roundabout way for Sega to justify whatever money was needed for Sonic 3's original score. Instead, we got the beta tracks that sound like Sonic 4, similarly bad new themes for the super forms and the ending, and, arguably worse than that, the entire score, not just the beta tracks, is compressed. The richness present in the original audio, even in Sonic 1 and 2 in the same collection, is completely gone in Sonic 3, replaced with a muffled, lower quality sample of the game's incredible soundtrack. Anyway, Sonic 3 did actually get some lovely new features too, like the sprites that are used for 3D rotations, including variants for looking up and crouching down. I imagine this extra visual feedback will make the Carnival Night barrel much less difficult to figure out for first-time players. There's now extra animations during the transition from Launch Base to Mushroom Hill, and obviously they added the Big Arm fight back. The springs in Hidden Palace bounce you just high enough to keep your flow and not awkwardly smack into the staircase. Tails gets his own little opening cutscene in-game, along with access to a regular super form with the Chaos Emeralds, retconning the former Super Tails into Hyper Tails. Knuckles does his little boxing motion in the opening instead of just standing there motionless. Eggman's eye color has been changed from black to blue, probably to make it clear that we're seeing his glasses and not big soulless eyeballs. Unfortunately, there are also a shocking amount of weird and just outright bad changes to Sonic 3, which mostly feel like intentional design choices. This includes having your movement locked at the beginning of Angel Island's mini-boss, which makes the encounter last even longer as you wait for the cutscene to begin. There are special stage rings Sonic simply can't reach anymore. The Angel Island boss moves away sooner than it used to. This countdown sound in Death Egg Zone has been changed. There are way too many explosion sounds in the ending of Launch Base. Great Eggman Robo's Fireball moves much slower than it did originally, partially because of the wider screen real estate. I could keep going. How about all of the bugs and other technical oversights that were not problems in the original games? Sonic 3's spring sound effect has this long humming noise for several seconds after the sound should have already ended. I've been damaged and killed in a variety of ways that shouldn't be possible, mostly through crushing. The Blue Sphere music doesn't speed up the longer you play, and it cuts off too early after completing the stage. It's too easy to outrun the camera, considering the wider screen size. You can't skip the score tallying up at the end of each stage. This swing in Angel Island isn't high enough, so now you take damage from the spikes. The falling debris in Marble Garden Act 1 keeps spawning after the boss disappears. The camera in Marble Garden Act 2 doesn't scroll up to show you the stage properly as it's collapsing. Audio mixing is all over the place in Sonic CD, some tracks are much quieter than others. Tails keeps getting stuck and won't respawn when he's following you in Sonic 2. The corkscrew tubes in Carnival Night are too slow. The spinning tops in Marble Garden feel totally different to the original game, and don't stick to the ground for as long as they should. I'm supposed to be rolling here, but I'm not. I have never died so many times to this thing. I think the behavior of the spiked top is different, and I could swear the hitboxes are bigger, and the boss itself takes 6 hits instead of 4. There are new sprites for when Sonic runs up the tree in Angel Island, but they still use the old ones from Sonic 2 on the rotating columns of Carnival Night. This new animation of Eggman should be behind this pillar, not in front of it. You can play the premium music tracks in the museum without even unlocking them. This ramp in Flying Battery consistently launches me at an incorrect angle, so I can't reach the spring. The elevator tubes in Carnival Night sometimes just don't work. The animation of Great Eggman Robo's fingers raising up for anticipation is just gone now. There's increased knockback while chasing Eggman at the end of Death Egg, making it much harder than intended. The final chase in Doomsday Zone is now dramatically easier because Eggman's getaway has been slowed down. Sometimes I could hit Mecha Sonic just fine as Knuckles, but most of the time I would take damage for no reason. Did I want a remaster of my favorite game to be exactly the same as the original? No, of course I expected changes, but I wanted new features and improvements upon an already excellent foundation instead of breaking the existing features and altering the game balance. On a more positive note, the collection's presentation is mostly good. I completely adore the 3D modeled islands, clearly showcasing the different geography of each game's location, but the animated models leave a lot to be desired. These are mostly just recycled assets from Generations and Forces, with looped animations that look thrown together in an afternoon. Of course, there's no 3D classic Knuckles or Amy here because they didn't already have models of them from 10 years ago. This is the same reason Knuckles isn't playable in Sonic CD, and classic Amy isn't playable at all, because the work hadn't already been done for them. The ability to restart special stages with museum coins is fine, but the menu does not fit the aesthetic at all. It's very jarring. Same with when you pick a character at the beginning of Sonic 1, 2, and CD. Why couldn't these have been cohesively styled to suit the original games? You know, kind of like this beautiful menu on the new Blue Spheres screen. This is how you do it. There's a few new modes, I only tried them a tiny bit for this video. Mission mode has some cool gimmicks. It's nice to see challenges revolving around unique aspects of each character's movement system. I don't think any of these are particularly difficult, even the DLC hard missions maybe took me a few more tries here and there. This kind of remixed content in video game re-releases has never interested me. I'm here for the full experience, not these little disconnected challenges. I feel the same way about Boss Rush and Mirror Mode. It's fine if you want that kind of thing, but it's absolutely not a headliner feature. And come on, they couldn't emulate 3D Blast, the Game Gear games, Knuckles Chaotix, any of those? Sure, they're not very good, but it would have added more history and value to the total package. The museum has some wonderful never-before-seen artwork, and it's great to have all the original instruction manuals, but this still feels bare bones. It doesn't help that you go from the loud, exciting main menu music to this silent, desolate museum with nothing but obnoxious beeping noises. You can't even listen to any of the music while going back to view the artwork. What's the point? Lastly, the new 2D animated cutscenes by Powerhouse are a treat. I was so giddy seeing lore elements finally represented on screen for the first time, like the missing emerald of Sonic 1, Amy's tarot cards, and Tails getting trolled. They do clash with the Sonic CD opening, not just because of the aspect ratio and art style, but also because the CD animations are far more dynamic and expressive. But it doesn't bother me too much, and I'm glad that we have both. I would have loved seeing more character interactions in these new scenes, especially during the endings of Sonic 2 and 3. Was Eggman's face always carved into that mountain before Little Planet got there? This collection also confirms Sonic CD taking place between 1 and 2, as I always assumed, and spells Hydro City the correct way. The final cutscene bookending all the games is a perfect encapsulation of the unique charm and appeal that I love so much about classic Sonic. It almost makes me teary-eyed. It's just too bad that the games themselves in this collection couldn't maintain that same quality. The writing was always on the wall that Sonic Origins wasn't going to be anything stellar. I never expected it to be as feature-complete as Sonic 3 Air. I never even thought I'd hear the original Michael Jackson music, but I at least expected a competent series of remasters with clear image quality, responsive controls, and less frustrating bugs. It didn't really shock me that many of my friends cancelled their pre-orders right before release, mainly after hearing that new music. This game will likely sell well, which is good and bad. Good because I desperately want the Mania sequel that the gorgeous ending cutscene of this collection teases, and bad because it shows that Sega can keep getting away with selling rushed, unpolished products for a premium price tag. Maybe because this is classic Sonic, aka the only good Sonic anymore, Sega will dedicate appropriate resources towards patching this, but I have my serious doubts after what happened, or rather what didn't happen, with Team Sonic Racing and Sonic Colors Ultimate. It's really not a good sign when Simon Tomley has to publicly confirm that his entire team is not happy with the state of Sonic Origins, and that they would greatly appreciate the chance to improve upon it. If you want to play these classic Sonic games for the first time, Origins may not be outright bad for you, but it's an inauthentic representation that doesn't showcase the true quality of these titles. I understand this may be the only option for console players, but you can run Sonic 3 on anything. If you're savvy enough to mod the PC version of Origins, then you're able to not play it at all and just use Sonic 3 Air instead. I'd recommend these other videos from Digital Foundry, Pariah695, and Bakuri Box 12 if you want more about Origins. These all released after I had already started work on this video, so I've tried to avoid too much overlap in the points that I've made. That's all that I have to say about Sonic Origins, but there's always more Sonic on the horizon. Just like Sonic Forces, I am not going to be doing a video about Frontiers unless I get a review copy, because I'm not buying it. I will not support another empty, boring 3D Sonic game with stiff controls and automation, no momentum whatsoever, and an incredibly bland combat system that wishes it was anything like what I outlined in my Platinum Games Sonic video a few years back. I still can't get over how Sonic runs like he's super glued to the floor, sticking to curves at the same consistent speed, and never gaining air from running off a slope or cliff. Remember what I said about Frontiers before we got gameplay? Let's just hope it doesn't feel like an awkward imitation of Breath of the Wild, and can instead truly feel like a Sonic game. Some rolling physics would be a great start. Oops, it's exactly what I was worried about. Now with more reused levels from Sonic Generations. Again! I'm still mad about that dumb Back to the Future joke I made in the 2021 video not rendering properly. It pisses me off. Oh, and when I saw the thumbnail for that new clip of Sonic Prime with Big the Cat, I genuinely thought it was a fake fan-made trailer created in Source Filmmaker. Make of that what you will. I really wish there was more for me to be excited about with the future of Sonic, but it's really just some toys, comic books, and a hypothetical classic Sonic game to me now. I don't like the movies, the cartoons, and honestly most of the games at this point, which really makes Sonic Mania feel like a once-in-a-lifetime event. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.